Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles. I'm super excited. You can already tell by my smile because I am joined by the amazing team. We have lead actress Rachel Boyd right here from Break Any Spell. Hello, hello, hello. And then of course our fantastic person that created this project, Antoine. How you doing? Good to see. Oh, he's on mute. That's okay, Antoine.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hear your wonderful voice.
I'm back again, I promise.
Anton, really good to have you here, and thank you so much for creating this project. But for
Thanks,
those
man.
that haven't seen Break Any Spell, let's take a look at the clip.
Hey! Sorry I'm late.
Yo.
Hey. What's up? What's the word? Your mom okay?
She's great. Why wouldn't she be?
All right, lay on. That's why I've summoned you here to Serpentstone. Before the moon rises, we face the greatest test of our time. Elm guards. They burned your crops, destroyed your villages. They even kidnapped your family. Okay, lay on.
Thank you both for being here. I want to give you both a big virtual hug because that's how much I love your film and your work. But thank you so much for bringing your film to New Filmmakers Los Angeles. It was extremely special. But for those that haven't seen it, Antoine, can you tell us a brief synopsis?
Of course, yeah. No, Break Any Spell is about a teenage girl named April who actually uses live action role playing as a way of coping and even escaping the everyday reality of living with her mother who has early onset Alzheimer's. And so the further April plunges into this fantasy world, the reality is that she has to face reality ultimately. And as tragic and heartbreaking as the story sounds, it is, I think viewers might be really surprised how many big laughs we get at festivals as well, because as serious as the content is, it's also it can be really ridiculous at times, our film, so and kind of fun. So yeah, it's a balance of both, and that pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
Well, Rachel, you were absolutely fantastic, the lead in this film, and you had to go on such an incredible journey. And you know, as I spoke to Anton at the film festival, you know, sort of the idea of role play and then having to deal with real life and how they interject with each other, you just articulated like so well. I'm going to come more closely into how that experience was for you, but just before I get there, Anton, where did the inspiration come for you in creating this project?
Sure. I mean, I think, you know, the short answer is I've just been obsessed with LARPing for maybe, you know, for a long time. You know, I was just wandering through the park in Montreal one day and just kind of came around this huge circle of just this crowd. And then in the middle of that crowd was just this whole, you know, just a total LARPing battle that was going on, and my jaw dropped, and I just started filming it for maybe 2 hours, and it was just like amazing to see, you know, just how accessible this is, because for anyone who doesn't know what LARPing is, I mean, it's a really tough thing to explain. I could probably spend the whole podcast explaining it, but it's more or less like a mix. It's like a massive multiplayer game that happens in real life. And it's a mixture of maybe theater and gameplay and even Halloween costumes almost. You know, I think that's what the first thing people will be reminded of. And so you know, a few years later, I pitched it as a music video concept for a kind of a famous band from Manchester, and it got rejected, and I don't hold it against them, because I think nobody, you know, a lot of people don't really, you know, maybe I just assumed they didn't know the brilliance of LARP at the time. And so I held on to it. So all these years later, and, you know, that battle just kept coming back in my mind. So the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to make that battle a reality. And so when I started drawing from my past experience, I mean, what really left an impression on me in childhood was ultimately, you know, the second inspiration behind this is that my mother was a support worker for 20 years. She really, you know, every day she would come home and tell us new stories about a lot of her clients. And a lot of those clients were people who dealt with mental illness and were battling mental illness, including Alzheimer's. And so you know, that has always left a strong impression on me and my sister, who is the co-writer of this this film. And you know, we found the more we thought about it, the more they seem like natural partners, not totally different, but actually we found a way to bridge them and tell a very, you know, at least we hope, a coherent story that justifies why we did both in the same film, which is, you know, as I've explained to you before, it really has kept me up like a few nights sometimes thinking, did we really just make a movie about Alzheimer's and LARPing? You know, it's just,
I mean, well, I think that, I mean, you know, firstly, you're a good LARPer, Rachel. Like, you know, honestly, you know, I mean, goodness me, it was, listen, Rachel, you really carried this story. Like, I was just mesmerized by just what was going on inside of the character that you gave us, you know, like to go and role play with your friends and experience this and show that one side, to then have to face the reality of watching your mom deteriorate, that no one prepares you for, especially when you're, you know, at an age where you're growing up yourself and discovering life and what you want and don't want. You just articulated that so well. How did you, I mean, tell us a little about how you got into the role and all the kind of stuff, because I mean, of course, you probably had to learn LARPing and things, and unless you've done it before, and also just the dynamics of the character and what you're going through as a daughter to your mom as well.
Yeah, for sure. So for the LARPing, I'd never even heard of it before. I'd kind of seen it sometimes in like TV shows like Big Bang Theory. I've always loved that. But so I'd never done it before. And when I was auditioning for the role, I was watching some documentaries on YouTube about LARPing. I wanted to understand it more with some context behind that. And I really liked that one of the main theses of the documentary that I watched was that it's real people. It's not like a bunch of nerds who are going to a park and like have nothing else going on in their lives. That's a really big stereotype of it, but it's real people who have real lives, who are doctors and students, and they've got their own stuff going on too. And it's like they all come together to do for therapy as well. So I really loved that. And I also agree with Anton that made it a natural connection with the Alzheimer's and what's going on in her family. So yeah, that's kind of what got me drawn to the project and the LARPing.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, as an actress, you don't often, like Anton said, you don't really get those two dynamics put together as an actor.
Yeah.
And, you know, but again, you know, there was some very emotional scenes in there as well, which I can't imagine what you know, a son or daughter goes through and feels like. And Anton, you probably got a lot of stories from your own mother as well. Tell us a little bit about both of you, about how you kind of, you know, worked on this scene, because obviously you had a lot of like kind of, you know, almost like stage combat sort of to go for, and then of course you had some very emotional scenes. How did you both kind of work together on that as a actor to a director?
Yeah, I mean, I think that fortunately, you know, when you cast the right people, it makes your life as a director a million times easier. I feel like the battle is almost 90% won in some ways, and that was absolutely the case with Rachel. Really, a god, you know, a blessing from the gods ultimately. You know what I mean? Like literally born for the part, and truly just mesmerized her maturity and sophistication. Just a very high IQ for acting and kind of understanding the screenplay. You know. And so it made my job easier, because it really just like what I'd like to do is just write a little biography for the characters so they understand like where they're coming from, what's the relationship, the backstory behind what's happening off screen in some ways. And then from there, you know, Rachel really own the character and kind of just, it started a discussion, I would say, just weeks before the script. And that was really ultimately, we didn't do any rehearsal that I can remember, honestly, like not even maybe a little bit at wardrobe fitting. I don't know, not virtually nothing. Yeah, you know, I mean, she just owned it, right? Like, I mean, she was just so capable, and you know, it's amazing. I mean, like she was really only 17 at the time, you know, and it was just like, you know, she got to set and she turned 18. So it was truly like, you know, I've never asked an actor to carry such a weight on their shoulders ultimately, because it really, it really is a very demanding role, because on one hand you have this a character who's completely conflicted. The world is crashing all over her every single day, and then on the other hand she has to put on her costume and flip the switch, and suddenly she's this fierce spellcasting battle mage in this
Yeah.
so
Yeah, Richard, you mentioned something very like, about the, LARPing being, therapeutic. And I can only imagine with what one goes through, with what was happening to, her mom, that probably was a really, great kind of escapism as well, how is that, experience going for you? Because, you one minute I'm enjoying, I'm experiencing this LARPing and I found it so fascinating to watch these scenes. And then the next minute I've got a frog in my throat because seeing you with your mom and feeling the energy of what you're feeling right now was just heartbreaking. How is that as an actor to kind of, go to those two dimensions, and what have you kind of learned from this experience as well?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting the way that Anton had us film the short. So we did a lot of the LARPing things on the first 2 days. And then the next 2 days we were in the house, which is where a lot of those really deep scenes were happening and hard scenes. And then the last day we were back to LARPing again. So I almost felt like I went through that journey of, having this thing that I love and I'm so passionate about it and it makes me so happy with the LARPing and all the new friends I made. And then kind of really having to feel that shift in reality where it's like now you're home and it's stress and it's hard and it's tears and it's like inescapable. And then that same feeling on the last day we filmed the big battle scene, which I felt like was so perfect, planning on Anton's behalf, because it was for me very much like, this is my big escape. This is like back to doing what I love while still having to mask what I've just been going through. So I think that the way it was organized really helped me get to those places and make those feelings very real for me and that journey real for me.
Yeah, no, it certainly came across on screen as well, and I'm curious as well, Anton, because this is real stories from your mom. You co-wrote this with your sister. It's very much a family affair, which I love. It's always nice when you're working with family. What did you, knowing kind of the story of what you were getting into, what did you kind of want your audience to sort of take or experience from your film? Because I learned a lot watching your film, and I'm still thinking about it. What did you kind of want your audience to take from it?
As we've had a discussion previously a little bit about this, and it's what do they take away was kind of something that I've been wrestling with for the entire year leading up to this script, and ultimately even through the edit, as the film takes on another shape, and it's really important, the theme that you really convey with a story that has to be consistent. And I think that ultimately, as somebody who has never directly experienced these situations in my life, I feel like the least qualified to ultimately to give advice or any type of situation like that. But when it comes to when I have spoken to a lot of discussions with friends and family who actually have lived through these experiences, it became the reoccurring theme that came across was always like, you can't move forward in your life without acceptance, and I think that that's the journey that you see Rachel, Rachel and April, they're kind of synonymous at this point, really, because she did such a great job, of conveying that. It's like her journey started with a bit of indifference and neglect, and then it really went on that journey to acceptance. And I think that what really becomes the ultimate the most moving part of this entire process of kind of getting out to festivals and having these discussions is ultimately the feedback that we get from people who have been in these situations with loved ones who have Alzheimer's. And the feedback that they get is it's almost a cathartic release to kind of I can't say that it really, I don't know, it obviously there's no easy answers. It doesn't solve any problems, but it does at least give them a voice, and it's I think it's empathetic that way. And I think Rachel can do a much better job of kind of explaining that, because she's been at a lot more screenings than I have, unfortunately.
Well, honestly, the experience of going to the festivals, and I never expected it, but I'm so grateful that so many people wanted to talk to me after and confide in me about their own home experiences and their own relationships with people who have dementia and Alzheimer's, and just how much the short meant to them and how much that story meant to them, and in how authentic and honest it was. And I think that for me, like when I think about what people are taking away from the short, I'm like, Anton and I brought, and everybody in the cast and crew, we brought authenticity. We told our truths to what we know is honest and true for us. And I think that comes across on the screen. And I'm so happy that people see that it's our honesty and that they can relate to it as such.
I love that. And I think, you know, again, that's the biggest gift you can have, when someone can come up to you and relate, or it meant something to them as well. And I really love also, I think there's this kind of, you know, there's always this sort of, every time you kind of see in films, it's always generally, you know, an elder, you know, person that generally has got dementia, but it happens to a lot of, like, you know, parents that are, you know, younger than people tend to think, and how hard that must be for, you know, a teenager to go through when they've got parents that are going through those early stages, and even seeing those early signs where you're not quite sure what's happening. I really love that you put it in that moment in time as well, not kind of further on, because you don't see that enough, the early signs, which I thought was really important, right? Yeah, no, really very good. You know, again, I think the after watching your film, I think the LARPing experience, I think that's going to be Googled quite a lot, and there'll be a whole influx of LARPing going on in many cities now, because I found that really fascinating, and just the truth behind it and how you celebrated it as well. It was really, really special. But what is next for you? What's next for you, together or individually?
Well, I could speak for myself that, you know, I mean, I think based on the kind of feedback that we just kind of keep getting from the short, I want to use it as a learning experience. And that's, I think, why short films are so valuable for filmmakers. You know, I think there's an urgency. A lot of people have kind of, you know, want to jump into features right away, but I think shorts teaches you the fundamentals of making films and learning from them, ultimately learning what works and what doesn't work. And you wouldn't believe how much cutting room footage is on the cutting room floor, and we actually had an entirely different ending to even this film. So I can say that, you know, it wouldn't be crazy to think that I might make another short. You know, a lot of ideas going through my head, but, you know, of course, this was always designed as kind of a proof of concept for a feature that's, you know, there's a lot more story to tell. And yeah, that would be ultimately what we'd love to move on and work on next.
I would love a feature, please. Can we just make sure we put that out to the world now? We need a feature. We'll put
all
a
the good
spell on
energy.
that. Yeah, energy,
Yes,
energy.
I have my amulet.
And for you, Rachel, as well, what is, I mean, listen, I'm very excited for your career. Like, you know, you really delivered so well in this film, and I'm very excited for your future. What is next for you, or things you want to move into next?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I'm so grateful that my first lead big role experience got to be with this project, because I don't really care about it being like a network thing or anything like that, because I'm just grateful that I got to be a part of a script that is so beautiful, and a project that is so well received. And I got to work with Anton, who is an amazing director, for my first experience. So I just feel so grateful that I had this experience, and I'm feeling all the feelings now, doing the interviews and going to every festival I can. And, you know, I'm just going to keep on auditioning and see what's next for me. And I would love to do a feature as well if we get the opportunity to do that, because I do feel like there's so much more ground that we can cover, and we've got such a great team and dynamic right now that I think we can really make another beautiful project together.
Absolutely. And I want to see, I really want to see more. You know, when you can create a world for us that we're left wanting more, that is extremely special. So congratulations to you, Rachel. Well done on your first lead, first of many, I'm sure. And Anton, thank you for your vision, and really excited that you got to bring it to us, to New Filmmakers, and welcome to our New Filmmakers family. And Well, thank you so much for bringing Break Any Spell to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. It was a real pleasure speaking with you, and just being part of the family, like you're saying, and it's really thank you so much for for all your support and for for showing us, and that's
Thank you.
I don't know what else.
Anton, thank you. We appreciate a lot of love in the room, everybody.
Yeah.
A lot of love in the
You got
room.
it.
Thank you very much.